Hello viewers, and I welcome you to a new episode where we will be discussing about the pre-production stage in the fiction filmmaking process. To discuss this topic, we have with us Shyamol Sengupta, who is a film academic who teaches in major film schools of India like SRFTI Kolkata and FTII Pune. I am Shantan Mukherjee, a student of media science. So tell us, sir, what is this stage of pre-production get us?
Filmmaking these days is broadly divided into 5 stages. Development, then comes pre-production. After that is production, which is the shoot stage, and post-production. After that, distribution and exhibition. So pre-production in these 5 linear stages is the second stage. To understand pre-production, we have to first start with development. The development of a project. Fiction films, fiction features, or in filmmaking parlance, is regarded as a project because it's a business venture also. So in the development stage, which is sort of shepherded by the producer, the script is developed. It involves a certain kind of budgeting, and the script is developed. The script is pitched to funding bodies or production houses, and once the script is finalized and it is given a green light or given a go ahead, it's only then the producer can go about the pre-production. And to launch the pre-production, the producer would first form a core production team. The core production team consists of producer, the executive producer, line producer, unit production manager, production accountant, and the production coordinator. It is the job of the production coordinator to set up the pre-production office. And in common industry parlance, pre-production is known as prep. If the shoot is planned for, let's say, 6 weeks, the prep will be spread over at least 10 weeks. So that is the prep and production ratio, usually. Pre-production or prep has a number of major job areas like crew formation, location scouting or location recce, casting, costuming, set construction or set design, scheduling, shot breakdown, and budgeting. And there is no particular order in which these jobs are taken up. Certain jobs can go on simultaneously. But before getting into these major job areas, for prep, what needs to be done is called script breakdown. Prep usually starts with the ADs or the assistant directors breaking down the script for collating the various production elements present in each scene of the script. This is actually done with the help of production software, but in India it is still not in vogue. In India and in some other countries, it is still done manually. For manual script breakdown sheets are available, and breakdown sheets will have boxes designated for production elements like vehicles, animals, sound effects, extras, all these things. And these things will have to be marked on the script, physically on the script scenes. And there is a color coding for that. Each production element has a designated color. And all these production elements will be transferred onto the boxes, designated boxes in the breakdown sheets. So once the script breakdown is complete, the core production team can move on to the major job areas. And the major job areas would usually start with crew formation. Crew formation usually is done department-wise, like camera department, sound department, production design department. Now there is a thing called, there's a concept called a wish list. The director actually is given the right of way as far as wish list is concerned, meaning the director will reserve the right to state his wish list about the HODs, the head of the departments, head of the creative departments like camera, like production design, like sound. Of course, the HODs themselves would have their wish list. For example, the cinematographer will have his or her wish list about the gaffer, the chief electrician, or the camera assistant, the focus puller, and so on and so forth. So each department HODs will also have their wish list. Now all these wish lists are sort of collected and collated by the line producer. And of course, the line producer and the producer will have a lot to say about the wish list, meaning that there are two things in crew formation, in many other job areas also. One is the affordability and the other is the availability. It has to be, you can ask for the best DOP in the world, but that DOP has to be affordable within the budget, and also that DOP will have to be available within your production time frame. So these two are the bedrocks of the job areas. In casting, of course, the director's wish list is given a major weightage, but it is invariably negotiated by the producer, the executive producer, and also the line producer. On the bigger productions, usually a casting agency is employed. Character profiles based on the script are made by the scriptwriter or the ADs, and a copy of the script and character profiles are turned over to a casting agency. And the casting agency can designate a casting director. And casting directors usually have hordes of profiles, portfolios, video clips, and they will match them with the character profiles that are given to them, and they'll make a short list. Then with the shortlisted candidates, the casting director will organize screen test, look test, dialogue test, all these things. And once the casting is complete, then one of the ADs will make a casting and scene breakdown. These are called micro breakdowns. For extras, there are extras agency, and the line producer will approach the extras agency for getting extras. Next is location or location scouting. It is also called location recce. And who all would go for location scouting? Of course, the director and the director of photography, as also the unit production manager, the line producer, and the production designer. Particularly, if you need a set on location, then the production designer has to accompany the location scouting party. In location scouting for fiction films, there are four major areas that need to be taken care of: creatives, logistics, financials, and technicals. Creatives is the location that you choose has to conform to the demands of the script. And logistics is that logistically, in terms of accommodation, in terms of transport, in terms of obtaining permissions, it has to be viable. Financials, of course, as it implies, that it has to be affordable within the budget. And technicals is that even if all other things are in place, the creatives, the logistics, the financials, that location may not be suitable for technicals, in the sense that it may not be suitable for sync shoot, it may not be suitable for placing your lights or the sun path. There are many other things that are considered by the director of photography and the sound recordist. So technicals is a very major thing in choosing a location. That is why sometimes it is separately done by the camera team and the sound team, and it is called a tech recce. A major job area in the prep is the production design. The production designer is responsible for the overall visual look of the film. And this department is a very, very capital intensive department. So a sizable fund needs to be earmarked within the budget for production design. The production designer's office would have the art director. Under the art director would be the set constructor. Under the set constructor would be the art setters. Then there would be dressers. In the West, the costume also comes under costume and makeup. These things also come under production design. But in the Indian subcontinent, it is different. Now, a particular production or a particular project may require extensive studio floor shooting. In that case, sets on studio floors would have to be designed, and this designing part is done by the production designer. And then the design is turned over to the art director, who will execute the entire fabrication and set through the set constructors and setters. Then a particular project may require set on location. Set on location is a complex thing. Even for that, a lot of designing is required, and it is done by the production designer. And then the usual route is followed. So it's a very manpower heavy and capital intensive department, and it has, a lot of time is required for this particular job area. In India, the costuming is a separate department, and costume designers usually would appoint a researcher, particularly if it's a reconstruction, if it's a period piece. In Hollywood, even for contemporary narratives, costume researchers are appointed. And based on the research, a lot of adjustments in designing may take place. Costume designers usually have fabric and accessory buyers, and then tailors and dressers. All the costumes are meticulously tagged for each characters, and a separate costume continuity breakdown is done by the costume designer's assistant in consultation with one of the ADs.
So, sir, I'm sure there are implications of affordability and availability in the job sectors that you have been talking about, aren't there?
Yes, precisely. Each job area will have its own scheduling and budgeting implications. For example, in casting, a particular actor may not be affordable within your budget. That actor may be highly suitable for the role, but that actor has to be affordable. Then an actor may be affordable, but he or she may not have dates which conform to your schedule. So there's a lot of implications of budget and also scheduling. Scheduling, of course, is a major job area in pre-production, and scheduling is in a state of flux. It is kind of ever-changing during the pre-production, and scheduling can only get firmed up towards the end of the pre-production, because the other job areas like casting, like costuming, like location, all these job areas have scheduling implications, and the schedule, that ballpark schedule that the line producer will make at the beginning will be constantly changing. So there will be drafts and drafts and drafts of scheduling, and it can only be frozen at the last week of the pre-production. Now, scheduling, of course, as you can understand in a fiction project, is a very mammoth mix and match game. And it's a nightmare for the line producer and the ADs and the unit production manager. It is primarily done by the line producer and the chief AD, that is assistant director. And there are certain canons of scheduling, like the shoot is non-linear. The shoot does not happen like you shoot the first scene first and you shoot the last scene last.
Yes.
Many times you may have to shoot the last scene first. So the line producer script would look a very haphazard kind of mishmash of scenes. The thing is, there are some canons of scheduling that one particular location is needed for, let's say, 23 scenes. All those 23 scenes, the line producer will try to shoot in a block. The canon, the thumb rule is don't go back to the location.
Okay.
Shoot all the scenes that are there in the location in a block. Then another thumb rule is that you schedule the exteriors first and the interiors later.
Why is that?
Meaning, there's a saying that don't wait for the bad weather.
Okay.
When the weather is good, schedule the exteriors first. And some exteriors may have to be turned into interiors. Then there is a thing called turnaround time. I mean, you can't shoot at a stretch for 24 hours. That is inhuman, unethical, and the guilds don't allow you to do that. So these are things that the line producer and the AD, chief AD will have to keep at the back of their minds for scheduling. And there are so many other things that intervene in scheduling. As I told you, it's a nightmarish game of mix and match.
But sir, this begs a question then. In these pre-production stages, all I'm seeing are the line producers, the assistant directors. They are doing all the work. Then what exactly is the director's job?
See, the director has to be hyperactive through the pre-production, because the entire pre-production for the director is a very serious creative selection and rejection process. Each job area for the director is a selection process. For example, location. Now, without the director, a location cannot be chosen. Finally, it has to be okayed by the director. Without the director, the major casting cannot be done. Finally, it has to be okayed by the director. So you see, the director is preparing for his or her mise-en-scene through this pre-production. Through the pre-production, all the elements that will be finally photographed are being chosen, selected by the director. So director has to be hyperactive through the entire pre-production. Another major thing that the director majorly has to do is the preparation of the shooting script, which is another important job area in the pre-production. Now, shooting script is different from the script. A script is divided into scenes, but in shooting script, each scene is divided into shots. Now, these shots, which lens to use, which volume or image size that shot will have, from which angle it would be taken, whether the camera will move or the camera will be static, all these things are done in consultation with the director of photography at the pre-production stage, and it is called the shot breakdown or shooting script preparation. And sometimes, if the project involves extensive studio floor shoot or set on location shoot, then the production designer is also involved in the preparation of shooting script, because seasoned production designers have a very good sense of the angle of coverage of lenses and very good grip on the utilization of spaces. So the production designer should also be involved in the shooting script. And shooting script also, very tight and very meticulously organized shooting script, it optimizes the pre-production efforts and it optimizes time and money. quite like scheduling, budgeting is also in the pre-production in a state of flux. Why? Because each job area will have its scheduling and budgeting implications. And as I told you earlier, that there will be many changes along the way. You may not be able to get particular dates from an actor. You may be forced to hire an even more expensive actor. That might economize on time, and it can be vice versa. Now, a particular location may not be available for you within your time frame, or it may not be available for you because it is the permission cannot be obtained in time. So you will have to go for a much more expensive location. So each job area will have its budgeting implications. Of course, the line producer is given a ballpark budget or a tentative budget by the producer, and the line producer's attempt is to be within that ballpark budget. Line producers always will try not to deviate too much, not to hike up too much the tentative budget that is given to him or her. Production budget is primarily prepared by the line producer in consultation with the executive producer and producer, and it has to be okayed by all the HODs, the director, and of course finally the producer.
But sir, there are all different budget sections. Like there's a budget for costume, there's a budget for camera, like you said. So are there different budgeting heads for different sectors?
See, inputs, line producer will ask for inputs, budget inputs from all HODs.
Okay.
Meaning the line producer will ask for a budget estimate from the cinematographer.
Okay.
The chief cinematographer.
Okay.
The line producer will ask for a rough budget estimate from the production designer.
Okay.
And
so the DOP becomes the budget head for the cinematography section, basically.
Yeah, the DOP will give the budget estimate for the camera department, camera section.
Okay.
But it has to be vetted by the producer, and there will be a lot of cuts made by lot of negotiations will take place, lot of fights will take place between the line producer and the HODs. Okay. It's a regular thing.
Okay.
It's a huge mix and match, and it is frozen only in the last week of prep.
Okay.
So I'm sure you can now figure out that this is a extremely necessary and very rigorous and complex process. It has to be organized and executed very meticulously, because there is a saying that the more tightly you prep, the better is your shoot.
But sir, it seems like this pre-production process might take much longer than the production and the post-production, isn't it?
Not necessarily, but usually yes. It is definitely longer. It is usually much longer than the production or the shoot. As I told you earlier, supposing you shoot for 6 weeks, then you will have to prep for at least 10 weeks. That is the ballpark ratio.
Okay, so planning is paramount.
Precisely. The more tightly you plan, the better is your shoot. And all the units for fiction projects must remember this. The more you prep, the better is your shoot.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.